So before I get started, go ahead. Hey everyone, in today's video, I'm going to be sharing 5 of my favorite professional development books for teachers that I read this past year. If you don't already know, I am currently getting my master's in curriculum and instruction from Boston University, so my nose is kind of always in a textbook. Even when it's not related to one of my classes that I'm taking, I am always researching and purchasing textbooks and PD books and all things related to teaching, specifically kindergarten through 2nd grade, because I'm always wanting to keep up on the newest, best, and greatest skills and strategies and research that I can share with you guys. That being said, I have read quite a few PD books and I want to share my top 5 with you. Now, these 5 I've chosen for all different reasons, so I'm going to share a little bit about each book and why I chose it and why I think it might be beneficial for you to read. So before I get started, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and let's dive right in. All right, the first book I want to go ahead and share is this one right here. It's Teaching Reading in the 21st Century, Motivating All Learners by Peter DeWitz, Michael and Bonnie Graves, and then Connie Jewell. And the specific version I want to share is the 6th edition. This is definitely a textbook type of book, and it is split up into all the different categories of teaching literacy. This was actually one of the textbooks I read for my literacy class this year, where we kind of dove into all of the aspects of teaching literacy to young learners. And this book I thought was phenomenal. I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit about what's included in each chapter here. But as you can see, it covers pretty much every aspect of literacy. And while this is a long textbook, each chapter itself is actually jam-packed and pretty succinct. It's easy to understand. It gives you lots of actual strategies and activities and ideas that you can take and use in your classroom. And it keeps up with all of the latest research. For any of you that are following the science of reading, this textbook was actually one of the ones highly suggested and highly rated for both undergraduate and graduate studies. So it does keep up with the newest and latest research. And what I really loved about this book is you do not need to read it cover to cover. Instead, since it covers so many literacy topics, I would just dive in. So I have this part, chapter 10 here, vocabulary development, marked off because that was one of the latest chapters I had read. And it is so just jam-packed with information that you can take and model and use in your classroom. And it gives you a whole new way of thinking about how students learn vocabulary. So it gives you a little background about how they learn vocabulary and then best practices in order to teach it. And it does that with word recognition and phonics and early literacy skills, all the way up through different comprehension strategies, assessment. It does that with each and every chapter. I thought this was a great textbook. All right, book number 2 that I love to read this year is Speech to Print by Louisa Moats. And this book is dense. It is heavy. It is filled with information. This is not a book that I would say is a nice, light, easy read. Unlike book number 1 I shared, where you could just pick up, open up to a chapter and kind of get all you needed to know in one succinct little place, that is not necessarily this book. But that doesn't make this book any less valuable or any less wonderful. In fact, this book aims to teach teachers all about the origin of the English language and how speech is formed both in the brain and your mouth, everything. I will say when I was in undergraduate school, I was lucky enough to have an entire class dedicated to learning about all the phonemes, learning about phonological awareness, but nothing as in-depth as this book. From what I've read so far, my undergraduate class covered about half of this, which again, from my understanding, is still more than I think most teachers even get in their undergraduate programs in regards to teaching students how to read. I spent most of my time this past year really diving into chapters 1 through 4 so far, which are all about phonetics, phonology, orthography, and kind of reviewing what I could remember from undergrad, and also just realizing that that was 13, 14 years ago at this point. So I needed a refresher if I was going to keep up with best practice in teaching students how to read. This is one I would definitely do with someone else. So find someone else that is interested in learning about this, or make a little book club with some colleagues of yours and do the skills that it has in here with them. It'll have exercises within the book that are meant for you as the reader to go ahead and complete, where you're counting the number of phonemes in words, identifying the third phoneme. You'll complete a blank consonant chart and see how it matches up. And just doing these things as an adult, especially with another adult, and talking through just how, tricky the English language can be, but how much we can actually learn. The more we know about how the English language works and how we actually speak, how it works in our brain, like I said, how we form those words in our mouth, the more we can help students learn to read and write. We can hear when they're mixing something up and help determine why that exactly is happening, so we know right where they are and where we can go to help them. Again, not a light and easy read, but an important one. All right, let's move into something a little more easy to digest and easy to read. That is book number 3 I love. This is Number Sense Routines by Jessica Shumway, and this is the specific one for K through 3. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, she has another one for, I don't know, 4th through 6th or something. There's an older version as well. Now, this book was made in 2011, and I read this first when I was teaching in Las Vegas. I think I want to say around 2012, 2013, but I still love this book. I picked it up and reread it again this past year. And actually, just so you know, in June, I'm planning to do a bunch of number sense videos and just ways to develop and strengthen students' number sense in the classroom. So that's coming up soon. But that is one of the reasons I reread this book and was reminded about how much I love it. Unlike the other 2 books that I've shared so far, this book is very easy to read. It is full of anecdotes from actual classrooms, and it's full of ideas that you can take and use right in your classroom to develop number sense routines and number talks. You can see right here that Jessica Shumway has made it so easy to see the name of routine, what it helps with, how it works, and then some more ways to expand this routine and some questioning strategies you can use while getting students to really understand their number sense. If you're familiar with number talks at all, then you'll know each of the activities in this book are only meant to be about 5 to 10 minutes long, and you can do them whole group, small group. You can kind of plug them in throughout your day just to get students talking and really thinking about numbers. Super actionable, easy to read, so if you're looking for ways to improve your number sense or math instruction, I suggest this book. All right, book number 4 that I want to share is Everyday Antiracism, Getting Real About Race in School. And this is actually a book of 64 different short essays done by educators and researchers in the space. They are all experts in the space, and they share a lot of personal anecdotes as well as very easy and actionable ideas that you can take and use in your classroom to foster some anti-racist environments. A bunch of the essays from this book were assigned for my most recent family and community engagement class in grad school, and a lot of what we talked about had to do with the fact that, myself, as a white female educator, and like most teachers, especially in the elementary world, are white and female, we don't necessarily represent the race and culture of the kids that are in our class and the families that we serve. So how can we bridge this gap to make sure that we are reaching out and being respectful of all the students in our class and their culture? And this book gives you plenty of just kind of great ideas to get started and ways to see the parent and family's point of view. And then again, some actionable strategies for reaching out and making the best parent and teacher community we can. This book is broken up into sections where you can see how opportunities are provided and denied inside different schools. And again, a lot of these are personal anecdotes and stories and research-based ideas that the authors have decided to share with us. We talk about curriculum and letting students choose their own books and how that ups their engagement. We talk about engaging communities and also making sure that we value our students' home worlds inside our classrooms. What I really love is at the end of each of these short essays, there are some discussion questions with a principle to make sure you understood the gist of the short essay, a strategy, and then something you can go ahead and try tomorrow right away in your classroom. Many of the essays in this book really highlight the importance of building those connections with your students and with their families to really understand and listen to where they're coming from so that you can best teach their child. If one of your school's focus is cultural inclusion and diversity or family and community engagement, this would be a great book to kind of split up and do a book club with and talk about the different strategies within this book to build those best connections with your community. All right, and book number 5 I wanted to share that I read this past year is A Fresh Look at Phonics by Wiley Blevins. Now, I saw this book all over Instagram and Facebook. I was seeing it everywhere. I think the summer of 2020, I think it was this past summer, may have been 2019, but I think it was 2020. It seemed like every, person on Instagram was reading this book, so I wanted to pick it up. And I will say, I don't think it's super groundbreaking in terms of new information, but this, just like the Number Sense book, super easy to read, very actionable, and if you don't already have a strong phonics block in your classroom, I think this book is gold for you. The way Blevins has set up his book is by having the 7 ingredients for phonics success. So he talks about readiness skills, scope and sequence, blending, dictation, word awareness activities, high frequency words, and then reading connected texts. And throughout his book, he actually goes ahead and he sprinkles all sorts of different activities that you can take and do in your classroom. So he makes it very easy to see how to do it, and then he shows you an activity that you can just go ahead and do right away. Now, also his section 2 is the 10 common causes of phonics instruction failure. And he talks about each of these problems that might be happening in your classroom, and then he gives you ideas on how to fix it. For as much as I thought I knew about teaching phonics, it was nice to read somebody else's perspective. And in fact, one of his common mistakes, I was like, oh, I definitely do that mistake. And I really liked his reasoning about why it was a mistake and how to fix it. And for me, that was transitioning to multisyllabic words too late. He talks about how in 2nd grade, while we do work on multisyllabic words, we don't usually teach it till the end of the year, why that's a problem and how we can easily fix that. And that is something I will absolutely take with me and probably even start teaching towards the end of 1st grade, teaching how to go ahead and break up those words, recognize the different syllables. Like, think about a word like unzip. A 1st grader could totally read that, but I don't think to introduce it just yet. So again, this book is easy to read and it's a great refresher, or if you don't have a phonics block or you're a newer teacher and you're not really sure where to get started, I think this would be an excellent addition to your PD list. So there you have just 5 of the many PD books I read this year, and I wanted to just share a little bit about each one and how it could help you in case you want to go into this summer choosing a book to kind of dive into and make your practice better for next year. Have you read any of these books before? Did you like them? Did you hate them? Let me know down in the comments your thoughts, or if you have another PD book that you've read recently that you just think all teachers should read. Drop it down in the comments so we can go ahead and read what you guys are thinking. As always, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up so I know. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel and click that bell. That way you're notified of every new video. See you next time. Bye.